How you doing, Paul?
Do we just hit record? Okay, we're gonna call our meeting to order. Oh, there's something more to do.
Yeah. I gotta get on first.
Call it back to order.
There we go.
Call this meeting to order this evening. It is a special meeting. It's February 8th at 6 p.m. Present we have Director Terry Lincoln, Director Scott McVeigh, and Director Erwin Fust, myself, Chair Beverly Fickus, and absent this evening is Vice Chair Chuck Jones. If Director Lincoln, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I did the roll call out of order.
That's all right.
Okay.
This time, did it anyway.
Might mention that we also have our general manager here.
Yep, so this evening on staff, we have our general manager, Paul Kelly, and our administrative assistant, Kayla, and I don't know her last name. Fox. Is it an L in there or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to recognize other staff in the audience or the union rep?
No.
No? Okay. Uh-oh.
He'll recognize himself.
Yeah, they'll speak up. Currently, we're under open time, public comment, so if there are any comments from the public prior to address the board on matters not listed on the agenda, should notify the secretary prior. So are these things? Okay.
Is listed on the agenda.
Oh.
Some of you might wonder why some of us are here, and the reason is because one, we'd like to know why we did not have a chance to have some input into the MOU, at least to look at it and to discuss it before it seems to be a done deal, which is very disconcerting for us who are the people who pay the bills and pay the salaries. Because it was a little over a year ago that we were told that this board, by two members of this board, that we were on the verge of bankruptcy, that we did not have enough money to pay our bills. And so here we are, a year later, having a new MOU, actually spending more money than we did last year, and again, we are going to be paying that bill. Why were we not given a chance to see some of the concessions made on the MOU? Why were we not given a chance to see what we are paying for? Most of the people in this area are on Social Security. Besides coming to this meeting, we also come to other weekly meetings, and we've done this because of the actions of the previous board, where they have they wanted to give us steep water rates. We were able to get that undone. We asked them to start collecting for the first time on delinquent funds, on people who were not paying their bills. All of a sudden, we asked why, and they had no reason, and now we are collecting on delinquent funds. We also questioned why they had snow days, and why some of the employees were taking snow days off, and that has come to an end. The board took a cut in pay because of the finances of this district, because we needed the money. So now, all we see from the employees is the pay going up. This is a real concern for me, and for many of the people in this area. Have you ever considered, and this is not going to be popular with you, but getting rid of some employees, and as they're doing now, just hire Axner when we need them? save quite a bit of money here. There are other solutions besides always giving more money. And besides running through a new MOU that we've never even had a chance to have any input into, considering we're the ones who paid the bill.
Thank you. I think at a little bit later time, we will have our general manager answer some of those concerns or attempt to in a little bit. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak?
I have three more names, Jackie, Emily, and Caitlin. I don't know if they want to speak now or later.
More towards when we actually get into myself at least.
Yeah, I have something to say when we get a little farther into
Okay,
what's going on.
thank you. All right, we have nothing on our consent calendar, and for old business, new business, we want to talk about the committee assignments. We selected committee assignments last January and last month, and there was a concern that perhaps we had a member that actually wanted to be on a different committee or not as an alternate. So I'm just gonna ask everybody what their preferences are, if they were good with it. I know that there was an issue with the planning steering, for sure.
That's one
So I enlisted under planning steering as one of the regular members, and Terry is an alternate. But Terry actually really wanted to be on as the main members, and I'm okay with switching with that.
Are you talking switching the two of you, you become the alternate?
I become the alternate and Terry becomes the main member, committee member.
Do we need to make a motion for that? Yeah. I move that we make that adjustment on the members of the planning steering committee.
Can we hold that for just 1
You
second?
betcha.
Okay, were there any other changes though that any members thought that they wanted to be on?
I'm fine with my assignments.
I'm fine with mine.
Yep.
Okay, all right, so we have a motion on the floor.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion on the floor from Director McVeigh to switch Terry to the main planning steering and Beverly to the alternate position. And the second was made by Irwin, Director Irwin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried, thank you. Okay, so now we're gonna go right into our memorandum of understanding and a side letter between the Clear Creek Community Service District and Local Union 792, UPEC for district employees, and discussion and action. So we're gonna turn it over to General Manager Paul Kelly.
All right, thank you, Chair, and to the board. I'm pleased to bring before you this MOU and side letter. One of the things that when you signed an agreement with me to be your general manager is you gave me this is one of my top priorities to deal with in the coming months. And so as mentioned in the discussion and background, the previous MOU was originally approved and had been handled by the community or the Clear Creek Employee Association. So that was back in '91, and it had subsequent updates from there, mostly minor updates. In mid-2021, the district employees brought in a union to represent them, the local union 792, and Steve Allen is here representing them as well. And initially, as you recall, the board created a negotiating committee, and so after you signed my employment agreement, you designated me as your negotiator, and just for reference sake, that is the most industry standard way to do it. In other words, you take your direct employee who is beholden to you as a board to do the negotiations. So since November, I met with the union. We've also had multiple closed session meetings and going through the drafts of the different MOU and also been reviewed by our district's attorney, Rachel McBean, providing a lot of clarifying and cleanup language, particularly in some of the things like the drug and alcohol policies, et cetera. And also providing some of the language for items in there, like when you create a nepotism policy or the Family Leave Compliance Act. Those are things that you could either have 35 pages in there, which makes it too big, or you put the right language in it and make it as one of your items that you finish when you create your employee handbook. So some of the goals for this new MOU is just some of the thoughts on the old one. The current and old MOU is dated. It has a lot of deficiencies in compliance with current practices and rules, and the district has strayed actually from some of those even that are in there. Compliance with grievance procedures, like I said before, discipline, drug and alcohol policy, the family medical leave, and nepotism policies, all of them were dated in the old MOU. The job classifications were dated and they needed to be updated. So in the new MOU, you've got all new job descriptions at the end, including changed names to the job classifications and duties. The wage scale was very dated. It only had 3 steps. That's not really industry standard. Industry standard is to have 4 or 5 steps, in some cases for large districts even more. And also it had not been publicly posted, and for a lot of reasons. First of all, the district wasn't complying with that. Second of all, what they would have posted would have been inaccurate. The job classifications were also, and wage scales were not really comparable to wage scales for similar work throughout Shasta County. The old MOU has very confusing methods of treating different tiers of employees with different benefits for different tiers. In some cases, they were based on kind of CalPERS tiers, because CalPERS does have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. But in the old MOU, that has that, and then it could be a tier 3 in this MOU and getting certain benefits like vacation accruals or other things, but not necessarily be tier 3 in CalPERS. Very confusing, as well as some of the vacation and sick time, comp time not being as clear. The old MOU has benefits like health benefits. It has confusing formulas and pooled allocations, and making really both administratively and cost allocation wise very challenging for management. So as mentioned here, this old current MOU is challenging for budgeting, especially in current and coming years, and would strongly suggest that staying with the current MOU would really do the district's disservice. So we have discussed in our discussions with the union cleaning up many of those items, and really taking both the 3 or 4 pages that the community had supplied as comments on the old MOU, as well as some of the things that the union and employees mutually agreed needed to be cleaned up. So a lot of the stuff I mentioned is cleaned up, getting rid of the tiers, getting rid of the pooled element of items for benefits. And then, then it came down to updating job descriptions, and most of that's been clarified. For example, the old maintenance workers 1, 2, and 3. That is something cities use for public works employees. Water districts use distribution operators or treatment operators or water treatment operators definitions. So we've changed it to that. We've also updated for the office and admin all the job descriptions be more industry standards. So that's all in Exhibit C. We updated the Exhibit B. So this is your schedule of job classifications and wage ranges. Again, industry standards more in the 4 or 5 steps. We now have 4 steps. Maybe future years we may mature enough to have 5 steps. The wages are also updated, we're also updated by reviewing a lot of our neighboring agency pay scales. So they're all right within those competitive and industry standard. Wage increases will be within the posted steps and occur only at annual reviews. And so no wage increase can be above or outside of the posted Exhibit B job class wage steps, both posted on the website in the future. That's in Article 9.1, if you really want to read all that. There's also non-annual performance wage increases. In other words, if there was a, quote, merit wage increase, it also can only happen within the posted wage steps and only implemented upon approval of the board. Again, Article 9.1. The job class wage ranges can be adjusted for CPI as a COLA every July 1st. Again, that was true of the old MOU, but there was really no up or downside protection for both the district and employees. So that can only be changed from 2 to 4%, depending on, regardless in some ways of the COLA. But if it's within there, that's what the COLA increase will be. Again, as a manager, budgeting in the future, that's a very important tool. And that also would be posted every July. We've updated the on-call pay. The previous on-call pay was really non-competitive, and then it's been updated. It used to be $10 on a weekday, $25 on a weekend, $35 on a holiday. Now it's $25, $50, and $75. Again, more within industry standard, and also an incentive to be on call. That's Article 10. We've updated the sick accrual rate. It was kind of all over the place because of different tiers. Now it's pretty much standard for 4 hours per pay period. Article 16, clarified the paid holiday list. It's 11 paid holidays. Article 18, the vacation accrual. The old MOU, like I said, had a wide range of accrual rates based on years of service and tiers. Proposed MOU is right within industry standard with 4 levels of service, with vacation days ranging from 10 days up through 3 years of service, 13 days through 9 years of service, 20 days through 14 years, and 26 days after 15 years of service. That's Article 19. The certification for job classifications have to be accomplished in 90 days. That's Article 24.1. In the benefits, the current district practice, again, it's challenging to budget and quantify. It has a pool factor cost. It has a contribution. It also has an element in which all employees are put into the most expensive medical insurance, the platinum plan. So in other words, no option for the employees to do that, to select their plan. This MOU proposes to keep for the period of time between now and when there's open enrollment, so that employees can actually make an option or make a selection on their health benefits. That the base amount will be $1,391, and then for the premium and anything over that would be split between the employer at 80% and the employee at 20%. And starting January 1, after the employees have an option and the opportunity to select their benefit, it goes to $1,400 as the base, and then the district would be paying 70% by the district, 30% by employees. And that's in Article 25.3. Now again, this is definitely a big impact and factor, and it's both a give and take for the employer employees. I can tell you that there are some districts that pay 90%, some districts that have a base amount, and then they have a shared overage of 80 to 20. Some of them have a 50-50. Some of them have a higher base, like 2,000, and then over that it's 50-50. I mean, if you listen to the radio like I did just the other day, Yellow Transportation, the truck driving services out there, they're recruiting for people, and they're going to pay 100% of benefits. So again, this is just one of the benefits as your manager is I can actually budget for this. I know I better what this is. The new MOU recognizes the district current retiree medical benefits. Now, there's a lot of confusion on this issue. Particularly, it is an additional benefit to the CalPERS retirement. So CalPERS retirement is one thing, all public employees have that. This district decided years ago to provide retiree medical benefits. That is what OPEB is referred to. So OPEB is other post-employment benefits. The district could have decided to say, every retiree who's worked here 20 years gets a free car. Well, that's an other post-employment benefit. We didn't do that. The only one that this district provides is retiree medical benefits. So if you attain a certain years of service for the district and in CalPERS, you can retire from the district and have your medical benefits paid for for the rest of your life, and obviously it changes when you go on to Medicare. So this is a huge burden to both the employees and the district. And so we have in this MOU that, and it's Article 25.4, in which the union and the district will work on solutions for the future and current employees that makes it helpful and beneficial for both. There are other benefits in the MOU that are mentioned. There's education and training reimbursement. There is a food allowance. There's a cleaning service. The other thing that's brought before the board is a side letter. I get a lot of questions from the community and from the board. Why are we doing a side letter? Well, you use a side letter as a tool for a couple things. One, to transition you from the current MOU to the new MOU. It also identifies where you're cleaning up issues between those two. In this case, we obviously are changing our maintenance worker 1, 2s, and 3s to distributions D1s, D2s, and D3s. So the minute you approve this MOU, we need to take those that are currently in their positions and put them into the MOU to find job classifications, as well as identifying the specific steps there. So that's what's before you in the MOU. It also puts current employees into their job classifications that if it's different than what they currently get paid, it gets them to compliance by the end of this fiscal year. It also handles, in this case, we have at least one employee that has a current vacation accrual rate significantly different, because that's what he already has, than what it is in the MOU. And so it basically preserves that accrual rate until he reaches the years of service in which it syncs up. So one of the other things, that I want to mention is in my memo, and I don't really want to go over all of it, but that, it does, the MOU provides an opportunity for your manager to do a more efficient job in budgeting for this impact. And so I did a fairly thorough review of the costs of this MOU and how it impacts the district. So that's in this fiscal impact section. But first of all, the way you look at an MOU is you take all of the classifications filled potentially at the highest step, and all of them filled with employees that are covering a family of 4. In other words, absolute max cost, all right? And that's where I mentioned in here, comes out to be about $1.2 million. That's max cost. The current budget approved by this board, or the previous board, for this fiscal year has budgeted 1.162 for employee costs. So clearly, max of this MOU is right within your inflationary or your natural progression of costs as you go out. And then lastly, I would just mention, rarely I've never worked at a district in which this occurred, where every employee was being paid at the top step and we're covering a family of 4, okay? So if you look at our current employee mix, we have half of our employees are at the top step, the other half are at step 1 or 2. Half of our employees currently are covering a family. The rest are not, for singles. And there are 11 positions identified in the MOU, calculated at that max cost. We haven't filled all 11 of those positions. 2 of them are empty. So again, folds right into the upcoming year's budget. It'll be right within those costs. And so that's on the fiscal side of it. So again, I think I'll just get to the bottom line of my recommendation is, clearly a lot of the early drafts of the MOU had some spelling and format issues. We think we've cleaned up most of that. Thanks to Kayla, she's doing a fabulous job doing that. But we recognize that even if you're able to approve it tonight, that we may have to, move a period here or there, fix a few things as it relates to editorial stuff. But I really believe the proposed MOU provides the district with known costs for the district, from wages to benefits. It's more manageable related to budgeting in the upcoming years. The proposed MOU provides the district and the union with updated tools for everything from grievance to discipline and other compliance measures. The MOU is within the current district budget range as well as our future as I look out to it. The current MOU, the proposed MOU keeps all the wages within the Exhibit B job classifications wage step chart, allowing clarity for the district board and customers. Again, I'm aware that there's both factual and not factual things that may have happened in the past that has us currently outside of the current posted wage scales, and this will get us into that. This also, MOU gets us into compliance with current water district employment practices and provides the necessary components to be publicly posted and used to increase public disclosure and comply with rules on public posting for district employees, job classifications, and set. I actually read all of what I wrote there. Primarily be sure that it's on the record because, one of the things that I committed to the board when I found out that they didn't even have an employment contract for the previous general manager is that I wouldn't come here unless I had an employment contract, and I wouldn't stay here unless we posted publicly both my contract, the new MOU, and all of the wage scales. And this provides the tool to make sure that we get that done. I already worked with Chad to make sure we get this posted as soon as possible. So based on all that, and there's a lot more I can say about. The other thing I would just say too, this MOU and packet was posted a week ago so that we could provide as much disclosure and information as possible. I recommend that you approve this proposed MOU between the district and local 792 United Public Employees of California, effective February 3rd, 2023. I'll just make a quick comment. We're currently in a pay period. That's the day that pay period started, so that we could actually implement this for that. Approve for signature the attached side letter of agreement implementing the classifications and wage rates for the MOU, and have it signed by me and the chair, as well as obviously the union and their shop stewards. And I also recommend that you direct me to implement the MOU, obviously, and post it post-haste, so that we can get it updated. And the reason why it's kind of de facto that I'm implementing the MOU, but it's for public purposes. And just so you know, part of what that means is, we're already working with our staff here. It's like, this gets done, every employee needs to be notified. This is your new job classification. It's obviously the same as the other one, but this is your updated job description. this is your, these are the certifications that you have to hand, blah, 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 all these different things, so that they're on notice, they have it, and put it in their file, and everything starts new, clean with this. Thank you, members.
So if we could just, address what Pam had mentioned about the MOU, that would there have been a better way of handling that by having a preliminary MOU, special meeting? Because otherwise, the perception is that the public really has no input, because we're here to vote on this evening, and to move it along, and yet, we're not really giving the public an opportunity, we're giving the opportunity to comment, but I guess if they made valid points, we could just not approve it. Is that what our options are?
That's what your option is.
Madam Chairman,
I have to say that employment negotiations between you and me did not happen with anybody in the public. Their opportunity to speak to whatever we agreed to was at the time in which you signed that agreement. So I appreciate, we took into consideration the community's comments and everything else, but ultimately, these are negotiations that have to be between the employees and their union and your representative and you, obviously, through me. And so ultimately, that's a decision that you have to make. By providing this a week ahead of time, I think we've done sufficiently. I've obviously spoken to the community multiple times at their community meetings, giving them a little heads up on what they've heard part of my speech already at their community meeting last month. So I think, I know it's challenging and awkward, but this is kind of different than, so an agreement to sell or buy water with somebody in which you would have, multiple opportunities to have some input.
Director Fuss?
yes, thank you very much. I do want to bring up something. The current MOU that we're being asked to approve tonight is based on the original MOU that we started with and worked with the employees and the board members at that time and this time to work on that. We did get input from the public. I have here a sheet that was given to us many months ago, and I think Beverly and Jerry and also Scott know this piece of paper. It's two pages of issues having to do with their thoughts from the Happy Valley Community Committee.
Based on the old MOU.
Based on the MOU, and the new MOU was made from this. Because I go through all these things, and I have it all checked off here that most of these things were handled in the new MOU. Most of them were handled. Now, there's a few in here that we had a little difficulty with, but this is all negotiations, remember. We don't always get all we want, and they don't get all they want. It's a negotiation that takes place. But this was brought to the community, and you saw it, and here it is.
I was part of it, so it was based
Well,
on the.
I want everybody to know that this was not done in secret. So, that's my story.
So I do know that I have a few items that I want to go back over to clarify, but any comments before we go that direction?
I'd like to hear from the public.
Okay.
Yeah, so would I want to hear from the public.
So you want to do the corrections first?
No, they say they want to hear from the public first, so I'm good with that.
Okay, my name is Emily Rankin. I've been a property owner in the district for 43 years, so I've been around a while. My husband worked for 42 years as a union carpenter, and I worked myself 12 years for Wells Fargo Bank as assistant operations officer, and 23 years in the same general contractor's office that my husband worked in. And I worked on bidding, writing contracts, insurance, certified payroll, bookkeeping duties. So very familiar with unions. We were a general contractor We had union agreements with carpenters, laborers, millwrights, ironworkers, and cement masons. And these unions have top of the ladder benefit packages. Okay, so I'm very familiar with looking at this stuff. However, there was some things in this package which we very desperately needed. The other one was very deficient in a lot of areas. But I was asked at the community meeting last night to bring up some of the things that are in here that bother the community. So I'm just gonna go through that list now. So, if you turn to page 10,
Hey, what's that again?
10.
10, 6.1, 6.11, and 6.12. So that's the hearing aid cost if they don't like the state required ones that are being provided. The district's gonna pay half the cost.
6
The
point.
$100 for work boot allowance.
Could you, what,
Here,
which one?
we're 6.1,
6.1, okay.
6.10.
yeah,
1
6.10.
6.10, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
6.10. Yeah, right there.
And the fact that the district provides rain gear, muck boots, hip waders, and provides laundry for the operator's pants. So those are things that's kind of like above and beyond. That was the feeling of the community, and, never saw any of that in any of the other union agreements I've ever looked at. So we have some clarifications, we have some questions that we'd like to ask about. 15.3.
15.3?
Yes.
So this is talking about if a district employee works for 1.5 hours or more of overtime over the employee's regular work hours, the districts, through its supervisors or managers, will provide the employee with a meal and with additional meals at intervals of approximately 4 hours of work. So, are you talking about physically buying them a meal if they work 1.5 hours of overtime?
So this is to cover primarily situations in which there's a significant leak or project that spends multiple hours on, even during the time. So one of the amenities that we do is we provide them with hot or whatever, water, food, or whatever else it might be.
So that was the like $632 figure that we saw at the last meeting. Okay, so that was clarification that was wanted on that. So,
But did we answer your question? You said long-term, Paul, but she asked if it was over 1.5 hours. So the answer is yes, if it's over 1.5 hours, we could theoretically provide a meal.
and every 4 hours thereafter, plus you're gonna pay them up to 1 hour to eat it.
Yep.
Okay,
The overtime.
of overtime, that's correct.
Overtime to eat.
Overtime to eat, that would be correct.
That's crazy.
Okay, the other clarification that we wanted was 24.2B.
See that number again?
24.
24.2B, which really isn't a clarification. But does the district, so the community's feeling on this is, what it says is that if the employee's position requires the possession of a Class A state driver's license, the district will pay for any required physical examination and for any fees required by the state of California for Class A driver's license, for example, tuition for required classes. The community's feeling on this was that the district shouldn't be paying for this, that the individual should be paying for this. that that Class A driver's license goes with that individual when they leave. We have the potential of spending between $2,500 and $7,000 cost to obtain this license and renewals. We could pay that for an employee and then have them say, thanks, you just paid for my Class A driver's license on your dime, and now I'm out of here and I'm gonna go get a job somewhere else. So the community felt like there should be a stipulation in here for a minimum of 2 years requirement after the district has paid for this, that they stayed employed with the district.
Or reimbursed
Or
the
if
district?
that doesn't happen, then they reimburse the district if they leave prior to those 2 years.
Can I interrupt and ask a question? Would it be okay with the community if maybe in the job description, it was required that they came in with the Class A?
That's the way it should be. They
Yeah.
should have skin in the game.
That's exactly how it should be.
So the other question that they had was the next item, which is 24.3. And that's on certification renewals. And the district covering the cost of these. And there again, these certifications are the employee certifications, not the district certifications. So if an employee walks out the door, those certifications go with that employee. And, you know, if you look at teachers, if you look at nurses, if you look at respiratory therapists, they all have to have continuing education and keep those things up, and they all pay for it. So why are we paying for them to keep their certifications up?
That's true.
That was, the community did not care for that at all. The other one is 25.3C. The long-term disability insurance, we wanted clarification on that. So, can you explain to me what that is, I guess?
Yeah, it's one of the benefits, that the district offers, currently and propose to continue, that, we have an insurance company that, we pay a premium, on, that is, for long-term disability. So after 3 months, if you have some sort of disability, we can actually get from that insurance to pay for it. It also, helps us get, because another benefit is there's life insurance for employees that work here of 1 year salary and up to $100,000. So combining those into the disability gets us the best rate for the life insurance.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. I'm an employee of Clear Creek Community Service District, and I go out and I play on the weekend on my snowmobile, and I have an injury that ends up being a long-term disability injury that had nothing to do with why I was on the job. Are we going to pay for this?
No, that goes through the whole disability stuff goes through a doctor, and we have our doctors, we get a report from the doctor. The disability or injury has to be work-related, it can't be for that, and that's how they report it.
So should it stipulate that in here, that it has to be a work-related injury?
I don't believe so, but I can understand why you would not understand that, because it's
Well, it
not
wasn't that we didn't understand it, we just wanted to clarify it and make sure that that was the case.
So let me just go on with that. If it's not stipulated, why couldn't they, with her scenario, with her snowmobile, get this disability insurance in.
If it was me and I was writing this document, it would be stipulated. Then there's
I'm
no
just-
questions, ands, ifs, or buts.
What falls with state California workman's comp? When do they go under that?
Same difference, I don't know exactly how that's handled under there, but in other words, they have their doctors, we send to their doctors, they're the ones who certify, they give us a report for what the disability is, whether they're able to stay on work, on light duty or not duty. That goes to both our Aqua JPIA workers' comp as well as to our disability. And then they're the ones that determine whether or not it's payable from their perspective.
So this is separate than state workers' comp, and the
Yes.
district pays a insurance premium for that.
Yeah.
As a benefit to the employees.
Let me ask you a question if you don't mind.
Yep.
When putting this in here, was it intended to be a long-term disability insurance for any, as the lady has said, snowmobile accident? Or was it just supposed to be, was it intended to be work-related?
It's always work-related.
Why can't that be put in there then?
Should be.
If it was me and I had to sign this document, I wouldn't sign it unless it was put in there.
So let me ask for some clarification then. What's the difference between the two? If the employees are already paying into the workers' comp with the district paying a portion, is there a need for that long-term also? I'm not understanding the difference between the workers' comp, because I thought workers' comp had up to a year.
And SDI, state
Yeah.
disability
Well,
insurance.
let's
So
say-
it's almost like it's a secondary policy. Is it necessary?
But let's say for the snowmobile scenario, I broke my back, okay? So I'm not paralyzed, but I broke my back and I cannot go out and work in the field anymore.
Lifetime.
Lifetime, it's lifetime disability.
So, Scott, I'm gonna read this for you, okay? 'Cause
Okay.
I feel like it's important. What it states is, after a 3-month waiting period, 66 2/3% of the first $2,250 monthly earnings, plus 50% of the next 1,000 in excess of that 2,250 of an employee's salary, integrated with all other income benefits payable, which means their health care, their life insurance, their retirement benefits, all of that, the 7.5% that's getting paid for retirement, that all gets included in there. And they are going to be paid that benefit until the age of 65. And it includes life insurance for each employee equal to 1 year's salary up to a maximum of $100,000.
And all that pay that you just spoke of is paid by the insurance carrier.
Yes.
So we pay
Correct,
the
but
premium.
you're paying that premium.
Right, and if somebody did actually make a claim like that was long-term, the pool of businesses we could be bumped into a more expensive pool, okay? Meaning that the premium could easily double.
I would assume that it's got to be required of us. Did you find something, Director?
Well, I'm only
I don't
gonna
know what
just
your
say,
I don't know what your policy says.
well, first of all, basically what the district is taking out insurance to pay for this thing if there's a problem. If there
Right.
isn't, and they qualify for long-term disability, we would be on the hook for the salary until they're 85 or 65. So that's one thing. It is a district expense. It is a benefit to the employee, but it's also a district protection. But I just want to mention that in section 4 of 23.3B of the current old MOU,
Okay.
long-term disability insurance after 3 months, it's exactly the same thing.
Same thing.
Currently have. The only difference is, this says 50,000 for life insurance, a maximum of 50,000 in the current old MOU that was approved in 1991 and updated. We only updated it to 100,000 here because that's actually what the insurance is.
Right.
And
Can
so
I ask-
it reduces our premium and the expense by having a life insurance component of it.
Okay. Can you, off the top of your head, tell us what that premium is annually, what the budget impact is? Is it based on payroll or?
And it is, yes, there's only a couple current employees that are less than kind of the max. It's like $50 a month per employee, something like that.
Okay. So about 6,000 a year. That puts some context to it.
I almost feel that it's probably a requirement that we have
Yes.
this long-term disability insurance.
Well, I would just say too, I mean, you put yourself at significant risk if there's ever something beyond workers' comp disability and cost to the district. If you
And
did
this
not
is-
have insurance.
This is strictly on the job,
Yeah.
so that's the
Well, it
liability.
doesn't say that.
Do we need to add
It
that
should.
in for clarity? Does the union have a problem with us?
Kind of
clarifying it?
related?
Yeah, I'm passing on commenting because I thought this was like take turns.
Yeah, I
If
understand.
it's an open forum, we're all gonna start chipping in, this is gonna turn.
No, we don't want to get too
Nobody's
far
ever-
off. We're trying to solidify the one point.
Yeah, so I'll reserve any comments I have later.
Okay.
But I'd like to hear more, if you.
Okay, so, Exhibit B, your wage rates on page 40. I compared those to prevailing wage, and we are coming into line with that, so that's all good. And then, of course, the community is concerned about our obligation to pay all this. That's already been discussed, so I'm gonna not say anything more on that. The other thing I'm going to say is, I know that the goal is to sign this document tonight, and I know that we need it, and it's a really thorough job, way, way, way better than the one that we had before. However, there are a few things that need to be corrected, and, I've given some of those to Beverly. You've got some words that are in there that need to be taken out that you probably were erasing sentences and didn't get all the word removed or whatever. And those should be corrected before it's actually signed. There's a few places where an extra word or two would make it more clear also.
Thank you.
So I want to say, Paul, thank you for coming to HVCC and clarifying some of the stuff. You did discuss some of the things with us in regards to the MOU. I feel that a lot of what we have as issues as the community are things that weren't necessarily in the old MOU and things that weren't necessarily discussed because it still hadn't been fully finalized. Erwin, in regards to your comment, that we had the opportunity to look over the old MOU and give you guys notes in regards to it. Those notes, from what it looks like, a lot of that stuff was cleared up and taken care of in the current projected MOU. But we only got this opportunity to look at it, and this is our first time to get an opportunity to actually speak up about it. So overall, it's not bad. There are things that I definitely like. I'm glad the mileage logs are in there. And 9.1, the action plan to help obtain a satisfactory evaluation. That's great. That's putting faith in your employee to try and get them further along. That doesn't always happen. In 9.3 through 9.5, I agree with doing a little bit of a pay bump when an employee is working in higher classification than their job. If you're tasked to take on more, you should be recognized with that extra, pay. 10.2, not being able to use your breaks to extend your lunches or to bounce out early from work. That's awesome. You don't see that everywhere. 10.4, I love CTO. That's great if you want to earn more vacation time to take longer vacations, if you have the opportunity to, and that you get the payout when you get to leave. 10.9, The employee has the option to use some sick time in the morning, if they worked overtime the night before. That's awesome. No employee should feel guilty for feeling fatigued or tired after working an overtime shift. So I'm down with that one. 22.3, it's a great list of reasons for dismissal. They're very clear of what you can't do. There's no kind of
It was trying to catch up.
Sorry.
22.3?
22.3, yeah.
Thank you.
The very long, like, page and a half list
Yes.
of dismissal reasons.
Yes.
It's great, no, that's awesome. Those were my positive things that I liked through it. My negative things were the 6.12, the providing of uniform services. So it literally double talks itself through that point, being that an employee is responsible for carrying of that, but then we're gonna provide laundry service for them as well. So that's, I'm not keen on that, but whatever. 21.1, the evaluations, a missed evaluation shouldn't equal a meets standards. That's ridiculous.
Where are you?
21.1.
Okay, sorry. I
Page
got
24.
Got it. That's ridiculous. If you're a crappy employee and you call out the day you're getting your evaluation and get a meet satisfactory and you get to keep on rolling. I don't think that's fair. Just saying that.
What's not fair? I'm sorry.
For evaluations, if you miss your evaluation, you automatically get a meets standards. And that shouldn't be right. If you suck, you suck, and that should be in your evaluation, whether you're here or not. Or if you're good, and that's where it's at. It shouldn't just let them float on through and push them along and keep going. 24.2B, that's again the CDL situation, and that was my main concern, being a DMV employee. I am well aware of the requirements for the state of California that went into effect on February 7th, 2022, that new federal guidelines require, along with the state of California, adding an additional 15 hours of behind-the-wheel education while driving that has to be submitted to the state of California through the automated system. CDL training and schooling used to be around $700, depending on where you went to, up to about $3,000. That price has gone up to $2,500 to approximately $7,000, depending on what school or facility you use locally. Again, with that, what stops the employee from obtaining that CDL license and then jumping ship to go to a job that makes more money? No offense to the district, I just think that's a stupid idea to pay for their CDL. It's very costly, and I agree that that should maybe be something in the job requirement, that they have the CDL already. Those were my concerns, my notes, my piece.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin.
No problem.
Jackie Longprior, and pretty much Emily, Pam, and Caitlin have said most of my feelings, and I have always had to do my own CEs forever. And I think I have a lot of pride in paying for it, upgrading myself, so that I can go to another job if I need to, but I've done it myself. I haven't depended on somebody else to pay for my education or my continuing education. As far as the CDL goes, my husband drove for 40 years. Never had anybody pay for his renewals, upgrading for different types of what he would be hauling. Endorsements, thank you for our. And, you know, he's always taking care of himself. Even the, you know, your physicals. And so I'm very much against us even thinking about paying for continuing education or a CDL. It's very expensive. The other thing on the boot allowance, I'm great with that, but I think the girls need $100 a year too in the office. Just my little personal thing. Okay, cleaning of your clothes. Yeah, they get money when we have the rains and we have to dig into ditches. But if anybody knows, our other little gal works for PG&E, and she comes in many times. She cleans the turbines up in Burning, and she is grease from head to toe. Works for PG&E, They're a big company, lots of money, and even though this might be a small amount, she takes care of her own clothes, you know? And so I think our employees can take care of their own clothes too. I don't think we should have to do it, but that's just my opinion, and that's how I feel. Everything else, pros and cons, I am 100% with, and I think everybody has done a great job. And I think on short notice, Emily and Pam and Caitlin have done a great job of going through all of this. And I commend everybody, from our board to all the employees, to our manager, his assistant, and our secretary that is gone, and to you. Okay,
Thank you, Jackie.
thank you.
So any other, any other public comment?
I'll comment, is now the right time for
Sure,
that? Are you
yeah.
guys gonna talk more about it, or?
We are?
So if I speak now, I could still, if something else comes up, I could add to it?
Yes. you
Okay, great, thanks. So I'll keep it pretty quick. So,
For the thing, would you announce your name?
sure, Steve Allen. I live across Clear Creek, Placer. I'm in Centerville's district. You guys treat my water too. Thank you. Hopefully they pay you what is needed for that, but it's very good water. I appreciate that. Anyway, thank you for being on the board. It's a thankless job to stand up in front of your community and volunteer to do that. And it's hard, it's not easy. And I also want to thank citizens that participate. I don't think there's enough participation in our local government, so I think it's a good thing when citizens come and share their thoughts. This contract, and I have negotiated, I don't know, a couple thousand over the decades I've been doing this job, probably in the middle of 25 right now. This contract was difficult. This was a complicated contract. And for reasons I think everybody's aware of, because it's stale. It was done years ago and not updated for whatever reason. I don't know why. I wasn't here then. Paul doesn't know why. He wasn't here then. But it was a project that landed in our laps that needed to be corrected. Because there's serious problems with that old contract. Things that have been approved over the years, maybe without board approval or public awareness, that needed to be fixed. So I think, I mean, I wasn't here early on when citizens started apparently voicing their concerns to the previous board, maybe for years, I don't know. But I think it ends up being a very good thing, if that's what happened, that citizens came forward and started talking about it and sharing their concerns. Because I think that's what got us where we are. Where all of a sudden there, a concern was raised, that this needs to be fixed and cleaned up and corrected going forward. There's problems with it. But if anybody thinks that, it's an easy project, they're mistaken. It takes a lot of goodwill and good intentions on both sides to come together and come up with a result. And I don't intend to respond. I didn't take notes to every concern that different citizens have. I mean, there's some things that I think are still misunderstood. I mean, I think that is a long-term disability plan that's not for work-related injuries. I haven't looked at it. It wasn't proposed to be changed, so I never looked at it. But normally, workers' comp is for injuries at work, right? And a long-term disability plan is for other. So, the snowmobile accident, I think, is a good example of how an employee who's covered by a plan like that could get a monthly benefit to keep their family afloat until hopefully they get better, right? Because workers' comp isn't going to cover it.
But wouldn't SDI cover that? I mean, if you go to your doctor, if you go to your surgeon or whoever is diagnosing you, then you have to run back.
Are we enrolled in SDI?
No.
See, I didn't know whether we
Okay,
were.
I didn't know that we were in SDI situation.
Yeah, so it truly is, and apparently it was implemented years ago. It wasn't even something we talked about before, because it was already existing, right? Nobody proposed to change it. But it's a pretty typical benefit I run across with cities and counties and districts, over the years, the employer provides a long-term disability plan for the, you know, the employee and their families in case they have a non-work-related injury and, you know, helps keep their family afloat instead of becoming destitute, right? But it's a benefit, you know, and I think it's a reasonably priced one. Usually they're like $30 a month per person, 20, 30, 50, that's all in the law range.
And I think the 50 is life insurance,
Oh, that's
long-term,
everything.
short-term disability, it's all.
It's all wrapped into one, yeah. So I would hope that that benefit would continue, you know, you know, it's awkward because the community should have a say-so about stuff, but the bargaining process is private. So, you know, we have confidential meetings where we discuss stuff, and I have to depend on the person I'm working with, the management team. Paul, in this case, started out with a couple of board members, and then he hired somebody who thankfully has experience doing this, right? I'm thankful for that, because it's a very complicated negotiations. But the citizen participation, I think, goes to and through the board to your representative, to me and the employees. We don't typically negotiate publicly directly with the citizens. And I don't think it would be a good thing to do that. So I just want to say thank you for working your way through all the difficult issues. Hopefully you took into consideration all the input that your community has on this, and it's reflected in the final result. I can tell you the employees and I had to struggle, and we did so with good intentions, but we had to struggle with a lot of what was brought to us. You know, it's not the contract I would write, if I could write it to be protective in what the employees directed me to negotiate. And we had to compromise on a lot of things, you know, but that's okay. I think both sides did, and that's why we're at where we're at. When I hear, you know, I'm an elected official, I mean, there's never unanimous approval for anything, right? So when I run for my office, I have no votes. When you put a contract up for a vote, sometimes you get no votes. You know, when I hear criticisms or suggestions from anybody in a meeting I'm running or here at a public meeting, I just hear democracy in action, and I think it's really healthy. But I would like to think, because this was brought to us as the union membership that I represent as a, you know, package deal, and we voted to approve it. So the members have already approved this. It's done from our perspective. We're done bargaining. But it does require the board to approve it in open session. So, you know, I hope we're there. I hope the input was sufficient for you guys to feel like we're done with bargaining. If we're not, and you back away from what we thought was, you know, a final agreement, I'm gonna have to start over too and look at the things that we compromised on and didn't make progress on or gave up that maybe we shouldn't have. I'm gonna give you a quick example. For the OPEB liability, employees are paying $300 a month out of the checks. You're not gonna see that written in the contract. It just talks about a resolution that was done years ago. So to pay twice a month, $150, it's coming right out of their checks, right off the top. I want to get rid of that. That's unique to this district. I work for county employees, city employees. The employees are not having a deduction out of their check for that OPEB liability to provide a retiree medical benefit. The employer pays for that. But years ago, somehow along the way, I think the employees were trying to be cooperative, and they agreed to take that out of the checks. So my goal is, on that one, and there's language in there that reflects this, is to step down the benefit for future hires, maybe step it down for current employees if they want to voluntarily step it down, and have them quit paying that $300 a month out of their checks, because their salaries aren't what you think when you're also paying a big deduction like that. So we didn't fix that right now. We're going to hopefully fix it before the end of the year. We have language in there to keep working on that. You know, the medical formula, I wanted an 80-20 split. I didn't want a 70-30 split, but we compromised. So I could go on and on. I don't intend to. Right? My point is that there's compromise on both parts. Anybody that wasn't there, of course, can legitimately pick things out of it and say, well, what about this? What about that? And criticize it. But I hope we're there and we don't have to back up and start over again. So I just want to thank everybody. And again, I really think it's important that the community is involved. Hopefully you guys are involved through your board manager, and then to us. It's, you know, that list, I'll just make one more comment. That list of concerns, I didn't see that. I was here months ago when there was some folks out in the audience talking about their concerns, and I approached them, because I try to be friendly and open and say, can I see your list? I want to know too. I never got a hold of it, nobody ever provided it to me, so that had to come through you guys to be presented. So I don't know what those concerns were, you know, the board has to deal with that, not me. Yeah, but
So
thank you.
before you sit down, I think,
Yeah, I appreciate the negotiation and whatnot, and I understand the concern, and if you're willing, if you could address just the one item, that would be the laundering of their pants. It seemed to be a sticking point with the community. Can you express some of the thinking of the union, the members?
Sure. My thought on that, I couldn't be wrong, but my thought on that is that laundry service for pants only, it's not all of us.
Yeah.
It's for the pants, is an existing service that's already provided.
correct?
And the district in bargaining wanted, that was one of the items that you guys, through your negotiator, all asked to take away, and we talked about it, and we asked to keep it, because it's just for pants, and when you're out there trying to fix a break and getting all muddy, or, you know, it's a benefit that we appreciate, so we didn't want to give that up. That's all.
Okay. Just so the public understands.
Yeah, so it's an existing, it's not a new thing. I don't know how much it costs. All I know is that, you know, when they said, we don't want to do this anymore, my members, we would really like to keep the pants clean, the service for that. And we asked to keep that in the overall context of things. There's give and take everywhere. You know, you guys, so far, have allowed us to keep that money. You know, the commercial driver's license, that's interesting to me. I don't think I think it's worded as it could be required. I don't think it is required. So it's in the event the district, who's already hired somebody who doesn't have a commercial driver's license, decides next week, you know what? Now we want you to go get it. With that kind of I think that's how it works here anyway. It's not how it normally works elsewhere. Normally, you know, I represent the Trinity County Road Crew, right? Their jobs, you come to the district with it to get it, but that's not how it's set up here, so I'm inheriting how it is, right? So here, you don't have it, but if you're told to get it, you're gonna be fired now, because it says they can require it. So the thought is, well, if you're gonna require it as a new requirement on me, pay the expenses for it. That's all that is. You don't have to ever require it, but if you do, then the employer pays for that. Now, if you wanted to propose that in the future, that became a requirement you had to bring to the job, we would consider that, but that's not how it's set up right now. So we didn't even talk about that.
Job description.
Well, it does say possession of a valid California Class C driver license may be required at the time of appointment.
And it's
But
not.
that's just a standard driver's license, that's what
Yeah.
all of us
Class
have.
C,
Standard Class A.
Oh, Class A,
Class A.
sorry.
Right, so
That's
I
okay.
don't know if we want to look at that as far as, you know, in a particular job classification as a requirement.
You know, I hope we don't have to open up the whole thing again, but we would always be willing to sit down and talk about how it's gonna work for the future.
Yeah.
So it does say Class A CDL may be a requirement for employment.
And it's not right now.
It's not.
So if
Right.
I'm working here now and I've worked here for 10 years and all of a sudden tomorrow you're gonna require it, that's not fair to me.
Yes, Emily, quickly, because it,
24.2B does not say may be required. It says whenever the employee's position requires the possession of a Class A state driver's license, blah, 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 blah. And I get what you're saying, and I appreciate the explanation.
I don't know, I'm wigging it a little bit because we don't really talk a lot about it.
But part of the community's problem is we're looking at the old MOU, that a lot of these things that were standard and have been happening for a long time were not even stated in that document.
Yeah.
So-
Clean up job.
Madam
Yes.
Chair, if I could just interject a little something. So, again, it may be not the clearest wording on that, but the past practice and the way I've seen it in other districts is that if the general manager decides that there is a need for this particular license for an employee that's currently here, he would have to make that determination knowing that there's a cost to it, because that's what this is really, right? And obviously, I probably have to get board support to say, hey, you know what? This D3 now, we think we should have that kind of thing. And besides, if you're gonna reopen the job description, that would be a process. And if we did that, we would know that in our MOU, we have a requirement to pay for a change in that job classification. So I think, in my opinion, it may not be super clear, especially when you're reading it outside, but I think we're covered on that side of things.
Anything else from you?
No, I think we're good. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Sandy?
I completely understand that past practices, there may have been decisions that didn't take into consideration the costs. But I think the beauty of this MOU and your current manager, and I believe future managers, they will see that, okay, this, I can't just willy-nilly hand out something or make this requirement. There's a cost to the district and to the.
Madam Chairman, I may mention that a lot of the decisions that were made in the past, unfortunately, were not brought to the board.
No.
We're fixing that.
Yep.
My name is Sandy Winters. I've lived out here for 64 years. I took part in the original election when we voted in the project. When we didn't have an office, the office was over in the old Cloverdale School, which the fire department ended up burning down. The manager had come here to work on the construction of the pipeline. So somehow or another, he ended up being manager. I'm sure he didn't have any experience in doing it. And his wife was the secretary, treasurer, bookkeeper, everything. We went over there and paid her bill, and he paid her. So time evolved, and we did finally get part of this building built. And we had meetings that started at 7:30 at night over in the old boardroom. And it was packed all the time. There were a lot of people that attended those nighttime meetings, especially when we were gonna be cut back on our water a lot. So then this part got built. We had a manager that hired an employer, or an employee, didn't even have a diploma. And she was, oh gosh, well, he's in trouble. No, I should shut it off.
There you go.
Sorry. We had a manager that mismanaged our district, I think, royally. He lost a really good water opportunity for us. And he let this employee write her own paycheck. She was hired to do the payroll. First thing she did was give herself a raise. Then, first thing you know, she's back to CH2M Hill and she's manager. And everything just went downhill from then on. So I wanted to kind of address the fact that
History.
we had a lot of mismanagement.
Yeah.
So then we went to daytime meetings only, 9 o'clock in the morning. Poorly attended. We had Tammy Hill here, Jeff Straight here, and me in the back, and once in a while a disgruntled customer with a problem or two, or something important might come up and they would put it on the agenda, and the board would do what they could do with it. But a lot of times things were going to be rectified. You never heard another thing about it. Never come up on the agenda again. They didn't do like the trailer park. They're going to put meters on all the trailers. That was never. I'm taking up too much time. I'm sorry.
That's interesting.
I just want you to know that there was a lot of mismanagement. It wasn't all the board's fault. They did what they could with what they had.
Yeah.
But it's I think a big improvement in our board. Really glad to see we have a top-notch manager now.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you for that.
Is there anyone else from the audience that wanted to speak? I'm gonna bring it back to the board for comments and anything else that we wanted to talk about in regards to this.
Do you want to do any of the notification to our general manager of some of the verbiage and whatnot?
No, I'm gonna come in and sit down with Kayla and just go over everything that's marked. They're
Okay.
just little things that I don't think, the union's gonna have,
I think you can,
yeah.
you can consider it as is, and obviously with the clerical amendments, I don't think we'll have any.
Yeah.
When we voted to approve the contract, we knew before we signed it, before I actually signed it, maybe typos and more, little things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we were concerned about.
Okay.
There's some typos
Yeah.
that need to be fixed.
Let's make it as perfect as we can.
Okay.
That's okay though, I actually have the signature pages for you to sign tonight.
All right, so Director, okay, so we'll start here. Director Fuss?
Yes, I would like to say that overall, this contract that we're being asked to sign is as good as it's gonna get. If I were to sit down and write this thing, I'd write different things in there, and I'm sure that everybody else will do the same thing. But this is a product of negotiations between this board, the community, the general manager, and the employees. Everybody had input into it, and it came out looking like this. I think we need to move along, frankly, and get it done. And so I'm gonna offer a motion. I'm gonna move that we approve this contract.
So we haven't yet had anybody else to make a comment?
It's okay.
All right,
I can
okay.
make a motion.
All right. Okay, so I have a motion on the floor currently.
You can have discussion now.
We're gonna have some discussion now.
Personally, I've worked, like you guys have, the employees, not so much the office staff, but I've been in the ditch, in the mud. I wash my own clothes. I paid for my own education. I did all of that. I can understand, why you guys want it, but I just think, in my opinion, we don't know where the budget is right now. We haven't had a really good budget. We as a board took, well, I wasn't on it then, but the board took a cut in pay, and, I don't see where the employees are stepping up for the district and saying, well, this costs extra money, maybe we can do without it, do our own laundry, pay for our own education, things like that. That's all I've got. Just my opinions, so.
I'm mainly from the private sector, and it's speaking to the education. It was a benefit to me as a manager to have my employees better trained, because I could cross-train them, and they became more valuable to me. And that's kind of how I look at the training aspect of it, that there is a definite benefit to the district office, the staff, the general manager, and to us as a board and community.
If you can afford it.
If
it's
you can
great,
afford it, yes,
but
I agree.
can
with
we afford it? That's what I'm looking at.
We had a finance committee meeting, and our general manager did speak to the cost, at least, of payroll costs. So we know that those are in line. I can tell you, if that helps you out, that as of December 31st, the balance in the general and merchant accounts was $745,000. Okay, so we did have some funds available there. Doesn't mean I want to run out and just, spend it on anything. I agree with you about the pants. I don't understand, is it a perk? It's a public entity, they've negotiated a perk for themselves, along with that long-term disability. And so I understand the negotiation aspect of it, the give and take.
Have a quick comment, Jackie?
Just real quick, were some of these things passed without board approval in the past?
Unknown.
Just saying, well, they might be in there, they might be going on, but was it ever approved or brought before the board in the past?
Valid
Was it
question.
ever approved?
Well, if it's in the MOU, supposedly, yes, it went before the board
Yeah.
and had signatures on it.
Okay.
But And some of that was debatable back in 2010, exactly. Okay, so here's my,
I was just gonna mention, if you don't mind, very quickly, I agree with Mr. McVeigh. I look at, these things as a benefit to the district, to make the employees work better, to make the district happier, to make the customers happier, to get the district moving, and to continue to develop and continue to serve good, clean water to the district. That's what I look at.
I want to add one thing real quick, then let you have your say, Beverly. If I'm correct, our general manager has to approve the training, and it has to be job specific. So they can't go out and get a certification for, you know, a water dunk tank and get an extra pay out of it. It's got to be job specific, and our general manager has to approve it. And if he feels necessary, he can bring it to the board for approval. That's where the oversight will come in, so that we can control costs and be able to budget properly.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Your turn.
My turn.
We're stealing your thunder here, go ahead.
No,
I'm sorry, closing meeting.
I just need clarification on the distribution supervisor's job description. So if you can find that, and it is actually, I think, the very last sentence of that whole job description.
The distribution,
Distribution,
Supervisor.
yeah, the distribution supervisor.
okay.
Okay, now that's required to be what, a D3, T2?
Yeah,
Page,
page 62.
62.
Well, no, yours,
I got it.
they may be different,
It should be 62.
yeah.
62. No, I got
No,
License
I am
certification?
on 59.
mine says page 62.
Okay, mine's not. Early uses of,
Okay.
Yeah, I got
59.
All right, it starts on page 59.
Yeah,
Thank you.
this was given to me by
Yeah, here it is. That's
the
fine.
general manager.
Yeah, but it's
Page
not
59.
page, but it's not page 59 I want, it's page 62 that I
Oh,
want.
all right, right.
Oh, okay, so you wanna jump ahead to the
62.
I want the
license certification?
I want
end
the
of it.
very last sentence of his job description.
Okay.
It says, within 3 months of the date of hire, he must obtain, or she must obtain a state water resource control board grade D3 and T2. So if the current distribution supervisor does not have that, is this a concern because and he's been with us for umpteen years, is this a grievable thing where he could say, I've been here, I'm grandfathered in?
No.
Well, but why does it say within 3 months of date of hire? Why, if I was in that position, I would argue I'm grandfathered in.
Doesn't he have that service?
But that's not what
What's
it
that?
says.
Doesn't he already have all that?
No.
He's a D2, not a D3.
Just as a reminder, I'm trying to find the article here. 24.1, certifications for classification to be accomplished in 90 days.
Right, and it came in the earlier pages here under H.
So it is
Background
possible
discussion.
that once this is approved and signed, that remember, I mentioned before, when we implement this, this is gonna be a notice of every one of the employees, what their job class, and their job description. And then we also will have all their certifications, and they will be notified that according to your job description, this is the certifications that you're supposed to have. If you don't have them, 24.1 triggers. You have 90 days to get it. If you don't get it at the end of 90 days, you can ask for an extension, and we
Oh.
obviously will work. with
Because
you.
you say right there, within 90 days from the date of MOU
Yes.
adoption.
Yes.
Bingo, that's all I need to hear.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
MOU adoption, because I just wanted some assurance that somebody's gonna come back and say, hey, you know, I'm grandfathered in. But MOU adoption, okay, I'm happy. All right, so we have a motion on, any other comments from anybody?
Just real quick on that one,
Okay,
you know, I became aware that the requirements for some of the job descriptions weren't strictly enforced over the years. That was an issue that needed to be corrected. And this is an example of where there's some give and take, as I didn't think it was fair to take somebody where sure, it says they're supposed to have a particular cert, but nobody ever followed up and made it happen or enforced it, which would be management's role. So I asked for 6 months. I thought, you're gonna let somebody go 10 years without enforcing that, and then you're gonna stick it to them in 3 months and maybe put their job at risk? That's not fair. So I asked for a lot longer, and we were told, though, we had to agree to 90 days. But we felt okay with it because the general manager doesn't have the, for good cause, can extend it. Like maybe that class isn't available, and or somebody got sick, so it can be extended. So we ended up compromising on that one. That's one of like dozens of examples of compromise that led to the overall contract. So thank you.
And if I'm not correct, is that not part of the non-compliance letter from CalPERS? The whole job classifications not being certified, and, so this addresses that issue also, brings us into.
We're fixing years of problems with this
Correct.
contract.
Okay, so we have on the floor a motion from Director Fuss to approve the MOU as presented tonight. And
I
you
will
said,
second that.
and to direct you to do something.
Well, I heard the motion to approve this MOU and the side letter and direct the general manager to implement the MOU.
Yeah, that's my motion.
Nicely crafted, Erwin.
I worked a long time on it.
And I will second that.
Okay, so we are going to go with individual, instead of all ayes, individual votes, so.
Okay, I will call the roll.
Okay,
So, Director Fuss,
Yes.
Director McVeigh,
Yes.
Director Lincoln,
Yes.
Sheriff Fickus.
yes.
And I will record that Director Jones is absent. All right, passes on a 4-0-1 vote. Thank you very much.
Job well done.
Are you doing the signing tonight?
So yes, I would like to just mention that I have printed out the signature pages that don't need to be edited for the chair and myself and Steve Allen and Chad, who is also the employee.
All right, is there anything else from the floor? The time is 7:31. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, guys. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Big one. I'd like to come.